Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Jayant Banavar. I'm the Dean of the College of Computer, Mathematical and Natural Sciences, and I'm delighted to welcome you all here for this wonderful event. It turns out that we have two former students of the University of Maryland here. The first is Brendan E. Reeb, right here. And the second is Michael Antonov. Michael, please stand up. And I will tell you a little bit about both of them very soon, but the event that we are celebrating and the reason they are here is one of those lovely partnerships that we have with our Clark School of Engineering, and I'm delighted to welcome the Dean of the Clark School, Darryl Pines. Darryl?
So thank you, Jayant, and we're grateful to have this opportunity to have two former graduates back from engineering and computer science here to celebrate this BitCamp experience as well. But there's another event going on campus. There's so many events going on campus. Brendan, you brought so many other things going on. There's a first robotics high school competition today. That's why you see these buttons I'm wearing. All the teams give you buttons if you visit their booths. So I'm representing. So this is the all-women's group, Think Pink, so I was supporting them. It's an all-women's team from Ontario, Canada, believe it or not. But with that said, we're here to represent and recognize some talented folks that are working on some really incredible stuff. So last fall, our Terrapin Hackers team spent countless hours building and coding innovative apps and different kind of hacks. That team, I don't know if you all know, but many of you should know from University of Maryland that we won the fall 2013 competition, which was at 5 different sites, universities around the country. So we deserve a round of applause for that. You deserve a round of applause for that. And because that team won, they were able to convince the organizers to host this weekend the BitCamp Hackathon here on campus, which we then invited, or they invited Brendan and his team to come and give keynote remarks at that event. But now, of course, with all of the excitement with what Brendan and his team has done, we now are offering this keynote event today. So I want to thank Brendan and Michael for being back here, for being the keynote speaker here and at the BitCamp. I also want to thank them for developing the wonderful technology, which is the Oculus Virtual Reality Rift technology. I know you've given them out to the students, Michael and Brendan, but you might want to give it out to us deans, because maybe we don't want to talk to each other in reality, but maybe in virtual reality, maybe we'll get along a little bit better. I'm kidding. But maybe it's only 11 deans, so it's only 11 units that we need. Just kidding. Anyway, I want to thank you guys for being back, and we look forward to hearing about your technology and all the great things that you're doing. And thank you for supporting the students here at University of Maryland. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Thank you very much, Darryl. Let me just spend a few minutes to tell you about our homecoming students here. The story begins a while ago when we had several undergraduates at the University of Maryland. Brendan and Mike were undergraduates, as was Andrew Reese, who sadly is not with us today. And while they were students, they started a company called Scaleform. And interestingly, the company still exists in Greenbelt, Maryland. Brendan, after finishing that stint and working with a couple of other companies, made his way to California and founded Oculus Virtual Reality. And in fact, it became a partnership then with Mike and Andrew and, of course, with some other people. And it was a terrific story, and they were working very hard. They were trying to change the world. And a very sad thing happened. In 2013, Andrew tragically passed away. And it turns out that we here at Maryland, who thought of Andrew as a member of our family, of course, grieved with the company and with Andrew's parents. And it turns out that Andrew's parents and all the employees at Oculus created a scholarship in Andrew's name for computer science students. And I'm delighted to tell you, Michael and Brendan, that the spirit of Andrew is very alive and well here at the University of Maryland. And as an example, the first scholarship holder is here with us, Zach Siegel. Will you please stand up? And Zach is a spectacular student and has visited Oculus, spent time with the people there, and really, in every sense of the word, Oculus and the University of Maryland have really become part of an extended family. So all this was well and good, and we were very fond of our Oculus founders, and that was when we thought, Daryl and I, of inviting them over for this bit-a-thon, and everything was going very smoothly. And then our life was turned upside down last week because we heard that Oculus had been acquired by Facebook for the small price of about $2 billion. And our pride in Brendan and Mike has always been very high. We continue to be very, very proud of both of you. I'm delighted to welcome you back here, and I hope you'll have a lovely time with us this weekend. Brendan, it's all yours.
Cool. Thank you. Everybody can hear me okay? Check, 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 check. Hello. Okay, I'll go pretty quick here. I have a bunch of slides, and this is a little bit covering the past, when we got started, where we got started, a lot of the failure that we had along the way, and then leading up to some of the great success that we've recently had. So I came to Maryland with, and Mike as well, and Andrew. We all started in 1998, so gosh, it's a long time ago. I was 18 at the time. I never thought I would feel this old, but I really feel like I was just here, so it's not that long ago. Instead of diving in and meeting this awesome guy, I saw a bunch of this guy. I may have hung out with him once or twice, but instead I got to meet Michael, which was an incredible event and really changed my life. And these are the kind of relationships that you'll make here. You'll make relationships that will live on for the rest of your life. And we decided to start a company called Sonic Fusion. This was actually the precursor to Scaleform. We started Sonic Fusion. That was us. I had the business plan in my hand, and he had the technical specification in his hand. And boy, were we excited about what we were making. We were going to create this new windowing system, and this was a year after we came here to the University of Maryland. So right away, we just got really excited about this. Mike and I actually met at Denton Hall, so the Denton campus dorm room there. Our dorm rooms faced each other, so I'd open my door and there would be Mike, maybe in his underwear, maybe in his clothes, and he would open his door and there would be me. And so we got to know each other. We started this company, and we thought, let's go make a better windowing system than Windows and Mac, and we'll make it for games, and it'll be awesome. And we were in a little bit over our head. So it took a little bit longer. Sorry, Mike. Mike would always make these great faces. So it did take a little bit longer than we thought. So 5 years have passed at this point, and we're still going, and we still have made exactly $0, which isn't exactly the startup story you usually want to hear. I, at that time, had taken some time off from school. I had convinced Mike to take some time off with me. His parents then easily convinced him to get back into school because we had made exactly $0 and 0 cents. So we luckily did find a little bit of fans of our technology, and after about 5 or 6 years, we were able to license our tech to Firaxis, who was up in Hunt Valley, Towson, Maryland, for Civilization 4. And this was kind of the last hope before we were totally broke. At the time, we were living in my mom's house. We had moved in. We were there for a couple of years. I mean, it was pretty bad. We were asking her for lunch money. It was very painful. Maybe he was still using the campus meal card sometimes. Borrowing Mike's meal card. So this is, yeah, 2004, about 5 years later, we licensed the technology. It got all this praise, Game of the Year. We then decided that really that technology wasn't scalable. It took about 1,500 emails to answer support, so we had to quickly pivot and essentially say that the 5 years of our life that we slaved on this thing were not going to work out, and instead we needed to make a new technology. And that's a really hard decision to make after you spend that much time, and even when you get a success. So the new technology we made was a flash player. And this is one of those times where instead of going out there and just making what you think is going to be awesome, which is what we did in the beginning, it's sometimes good to ask a customer what they think would be awesome. We didn't do that in the beginning. And once we started to ask customers, what would you actually like, they said, well, instead of making this entire new Windows, will you just make a flash player so we can use the art tool Flash? So we quickly pivoted. Somehow I convinced Mike to stay with me and keep coding and change and make this whole new product after 5 years of making a product. And I thank Mike all the time for not bailing, because at the end of the day, he had to write all the code, and I just went out there to try to sell it. So we made this flash player for games. It got pretty popular pretty quick. We were able to license it to Crytek, and we really bet on Crysis and Crytek as a company making this new game. They licensed it for all their UI, and pretty quickly it kind of took off, and it was used for in-game HUDs and menus. And suddenly we were able to license it to most of the industry. Now this suddenly is actually over another 5 years. So if you look at this, this is 12 years later after joining with Mike and starting Sonic Fusion. We actually finally had a real success, and we were able to license it to hundreds of games, and it became what most people know as Scaleform now, is this successful kind of team here in Greenbelt. A couple of the guys, I think Artem's down here in front also. And we put together this awesome team locally here in Greenbelt. A bunch of the guys were from University of Maryland on the team, and it really worked out well for everybody. But it was 12 years in the making, and that's something that you just got to keep with it. Most of the time, these things don't happen nearly as fast as, say, Oculus. So Scaleform was a lot of fun, and then in 2011, we did get acquired by Autodesk. We kind of ran out of, I don't want to say steam on it, but we ran out of ideas on how to scale the business. And this is something that we started to learn on the business side, not just the technology side. It was a great piece of tech. But on the business side, there were only a certain number of games made a year. Let's say there's 1,000 games made a year. It's pretty simple math. We license per game. Let's say we get $20,000 per game, and we're only going to get half of those at best. Suddenly, there's your ceiling of how much you're going to, how well your business is going to ever do. And that was a pretty low ceiling for a business to try to, continue to grow. So we started to realize that. Luckily, Autodesk wanted to invest in a new game middleware business, and they picked it up because it was fairly popular, and it worked out well for everybody. Luckily, no investors ever gave me money. It was only my mom and my uncle who I suckered money out of. So in the end, it worked out pretty well for them. And had we had investors, it would have probably gone all wrong. But it was a very fun ride. It was a long ride, and it really was a measure of perseverance for all of you getting into computers. Keep going. Don't give up. So after that, we jumped over and joined Gaikai. We wanted to get into something that was scalable and that actually did, even though we named ourselves Scaleform, unfortunately it just didn't scale on the business side. So we wanted to get to something that did scale to consumers. And although Gaikai was a business-to-business platform, it did collect and it did monetize off of the amount of users using the platform behind the scenes. So you didn't have to have too many customers. If you're not familiar with what Gaikai did, Gaikai played the game in the server on a data, in a data center on a server, and you would have a gamepad in front of your TV. You'd click a button or move the analog stick if you've all played console games, and it would send the signal up to the data center to the server, which would process the input, generate a new frame, and instead of the video card rendering to an output to your monitor, it would render to H.264. It would be directly encoded on the video card into a video frame, and it would then be sent down over the network to your TV, and essentially you didn't need a console anymore. And I thought when I heard this idea, boy, are we going to get rich. This was an idea that would really scale, and this was an idea that really threatened a bunch of different markets like console gaming. So it was very cool technology-wise and cutting edge, and it really felt like it had a good business opportunity to it. So we joined Gaikai. I hopped over, and then Mike followed shortly after that, and a couple of the other guys from Scaleform joined. We were able to stream to smart TVs. We announced a partnership with Samsung, and as soon as we did that, we had this kind of strategic thought in mind where we partner with Best Buy, we partner with Walmart, we then partner with Samsung and LG, and now when you go to the store, you can buy a TV and it comes with gaming and you don't need a console anymore, and boy, would this be kind of threatening. So sure enough, it was threatening enough that Sony reached out and acquired that, and gosh, that worked out kind of nice. So that didn't take too long, and it was like, okay, we're starting to get the hang of this. So now, where do you go next? And it was very, very exciting to see Sony announce it as PlayStation Now recently, won a bunch of awards. So that worked out well for all of us. But we really did love startups, and we were startup guys, and it's something that I think I just would emphasize to everybody. Spend some time in a big company, but try a startup. It is awesome. It's a lot of fun. It's, you have to be one to take risks. But it is just incredible to work with a small team on a big idea. So what bigger idea than virtual reality? I was fortunate enough that we got introduced to Palmer Luckey right at the time that we were doing this kind of Gaikai sale to Sony. Palmer was working on his VR headset. He had duct taped the thing and put it together with some hot glue. And at the time, he's 19 years old. He got in touch with John Carmack over the internet, over a forum, who reaches out and says, your project sounds kind of interesting. I'd love to buy one of your headsets. Palmer says, you're the John Carmack. You're like, Jesus, you can just borrow one of my headsets. I think Palmer said it's like Jesus asking to buy your clothes. You'll just give them to him. It's like, it's okay. So he sends him the headset, and John made a little demo for it, showed it off at E3 2012, and it got a lot of exciting press. I got a phone call from a friend of mine who said, you need to go meet this fellow Palmer Luckey. He's in Long Beach. We were in Irvine, Newport Beach, which is about 20, 30 minutes away from each other. And one thing led to another. At first, when I heard the idea of virtual reality, I thought, that has never worked. It's not going to work. It makes you dizzy. It's a bad idea. Just, it's not the right time. And my friend said, just go onto Google and do a search for John Carmack and Oculus. And so I went on, and there was this one article, PCGamesN.com, and it said, John Carmack shows up to E3 with something better than Microsoft, Sony, or Nintendo have showed up with in the last decade. And I thought, all right, well, that's probably good enough to go see a demo of. I hate to be the guy who doesn't go see that demo because we're selling our company here, and which happens to change the world, and wouldn't that be bad? So I grabbed Mike and Nate and pulled them in and said, hey, read this. I just got a call that we need to go see this demo. And the three of us kind of got in the car, and I said, if I'm going to see this, you're going to see this. We do this stuff together. So we got in the car, we went up, we got to meet Palmer, and right away, he's an incredibly charismatic, young, kind of creative genius, like I'm sure most of you here, or all of you. You're at Maryland, of course. So it was a lot of fun meeting him. Where's your prototype? He didn't have it at the time, so we're hounding him, get your prototype. We see the prototype, and the first time that we saw it, it really changed our life. I mean, you look through it, and for the first time, you're like, oh my gosh, this is going to work. And it's looking through literally that duct tape thing. You have to hold it and look at it. You had to turn out the lights because it didn't have straps on it or anything. Carmack had improved his by duct taping straps onto his. So we had to hold the box. But right away, we knew it was going to be a pretty big deal. And so we tried our hardest to convince Palmer to take our money and let us join with him and pull this company together and do a Kickstarter and do it professionally. He had a shaky cam thing. Hi, I'm Palmer Luckey. You probably don't want to back this Kickstarter unless you know about virtual reality. And we're like, oh, okay, that's not going to sell. Let's not say that. Let's put together something that encourages people to back this. And so if you're familiar with Oculus, then you've seen the Kickstarter video. And that was put together in about a week and a half to 2 weeks. And from meeting Palmer and seeing the first prototype to actually launching, we had literally about 2 to 3 weeks from meeting him to this thing needed to go live on August 1st. And we flew to, at one point I called up David Helgeson, who's the CEO of Unity, if you're familiar with Unity 3D engine, and he had become a friend and said, I need to show you this demo. I need your help. And he said, okay, what is it? It's the CarMax VR thing. Okay, well, when do you want to show it to me? Where are you? I'm in Copenhagen. All right, I'll be there tomorrow. And really? So hopped on a flight, went to Copenhagen, then went to Epic Games and showed them. And at the same time, Palmer and Mike flew up to Valve and showed Michael Abrash and Gabe Newell. And everybody got excited, and everybody agreed to be in the video, and it was like this incredible thing. I wouldn't email them. I don't think they'll ever be in a Kickstarter video again. They probably, I don't say they regret it, but I'm sure they got a lot of requests after this. So it was a lot of fun, though. We did this Kickstarter video. I didn't even know really what Kickstarter was at the time, and it's an awesome platform to work with, and it really helps get ideas out there. So if you guys have ideas, you can use Kickstarter and launch it. And we actually worked with a university group to do the production of the film, so it's not even it's not like you have to go and pour huge amounts of money. Although I did end up spending a lot on this Kickstarter video. This whole thing was about $300,000 or $400,000 to produce the Kickstarter video that we just kind of kept loaning into the company, hoping that this thing was going to work. Within 24 hours, we got some good news. It was working, and it really took off from there. Within a short amount of time, somebody else also liked it, and we got invited to be on Jimmy Fallon. Well, the Rift got invited. We weren't on it. But did get to meet him. But he put it on. He loved it. People's response was really, really positive, and we knew that we were onto something that really could change the world. And so we were kind of all in on it. We then took it to E3 a year later, after John Carmack had shown that little duct tape version at E3. We took it to E3 with a kind of better than duct tape plastic version with some engineering and some code behind it. And we actually ended up winning Best Hardware, which was incredible. I think they said the last PC-based product to win Best Hardware was Pentium MMX. That might have been before most of you were born. I remember Pentium. Maybe not you, Art. Sorry. But it was very exciting to see such a positive reaction and to see the world getting excited about virtual reality and about it working like we were. Fast forwarding off of a lot of excitement and a lot of team building, we recently announced the second developer kit. The second developer kit includes positional tracking, and that's something that you really need to avoid disorientation or dizziness. The first one only had orientation. So we started solving a lot of hard problems, and really the second developer kit is a year of hard work from a very, very brilliant engineering team. The first developer kit was a plastic version of Palmer's prototype. And it had a lot of software behind it, but it was something that we rushed out pretty quick. The second one we've actually put a huge amount of work into and are really proud of. It's not consumer ready yet, but it's very, very close. It's getting much better. And if you want to get started, if you want to go out and make something, you can pre-order a developer kit. How many of you have Oculus developer kits? Wow, so many customers. Nobody has one. Okay, well, we'll have to fix that. We'll have to solve that. We definitely are encouraging people to jump in and get started with the second developer kit. This is what I would say really starts to be a glimpse of real VR. The first developer kit is kind of this little tiny taste of it. The second one, you really start to get a sense of real VR. And what it has is inside, if you don't know how it works, you look through two lenses, and there's a single screen inside that has a left and right image in it. So it renders the stereo view, and it gives you this really true stereo image and perception. And as you move around, it tracks and it moves in this 3D space, in 360. And so in the second developer kit, we have LED, an IR LED system, and that the external camera can kind of see through this plastic and track these LEDs, and you can actually lean forward and tilt to the side now instead of just orientation, and it really starts to feel comfortable. And there's just a huge amount of engineering that went into this from a bunch of smart folks that was really exciting to build. But it's not quite there yet, but it's getting there. So we have actually had over 75,000 developer kit orders now, which is just totally crazy considering there's only 2 of you in here that have actually got one. We tried to make it cheap, but obviously it wasn't cheap enough. We're still working on making it cheaper. But given all this momentum and given all of this kind of hype and excitement around where this can go, we were really fortunate enough to actually end up meeting Mark. And Mark, you know, I don't know for better or for worse how many people, somebody said in the company when he showed up, well, some people think Facebook is an evil company, right to him. And I was like, who said that? And he said, well, you know, I'm sorry that some people think that. He actually turns out to be an incredibly awesome guy. I mean, he's like all of us. He was a young guy that in college had an idea, and he pursued it and went out there and built a company around it, which turned out to be a company that you probably are familiar with and do have and do use more than Oculus. It's a little cheaper than Oculus, so it's affordable for the college students. But it was fun meeting him. He came down to the office, and he wanted to see this demo. We showed him the kind of internal consumer prototype that most people haven't gotten a chance to see. Zach got a chance to see it, though. It's pretty awesome. So he saw that, and he came out and he said, hey, guys, you know, that was one of the best things I've ever seen. I really believe that virtual reality is going to be one of the next major platforms. You had PC, you had web, you had mobile. Now you're going to have vision. You're going to have virtual reality. And I just want to help you guys. I want to, you know, what can I do to help? And we're thinking, Facebook app in VR. Don't know about that, Mark. And he said, no, that's not what I'm talking about. You know, how could I actually go out there and you know, what problems are you facing? And we talked about, you know, creating things like a platform and an ecosystem and an app store and user profiles and the ability to, you know, put this on and socialize and see your friends and communicate and all of these things that we wanted to do with this that we knew it was going to be capable of doing, but that was going to be a huge amount of work to build. And he said, well, I think I can help with that. I mean, we have about 1.2 billion active users on our platform. It's like, okay, well, so that obviously works. That would be helpful. And we talked about all the really tough engineering that we were up against in terms of hardware engineering, custom optics and screens and sensors and cameras and all the things that we couldn't just take out of a cell phone and use. We actually needed to make custom versions of, which a lot of things that you're probably going to end up researching at some point in terms of computer vision and all these different things. And it's very, very expensive. Believe it or not, to build one of these hardware platforms is usually hundreds of millions to billions of dollars. The Xbox platform, you know, investment that Microsoft put into it was $1 to $2 billion. So how could we go up against and produce this hardware platform at scale without a lot of money? I haven't gone out and raised $1 billion before. That was above my pay grade. So we were trying to think how to raise, you know, how to go out there and raise hundreds of millions to billions of dollars. And he said, well, we have a lot of money. And we make more money every quarter, and we could invest in this thing, and you know, we could put hundreds of millions to billions of dollars into it. And it's like, that's pretty compelling too. Okay, let's keep talking. So, you know, we just developed this great relationship, and pretty quickly he said, you know, I really believe that this is going to be one of the next major platforms. I think much like Android needed the backing of Google, Oculus would be bigger, better, and faster, and hopefully cheaper. If you had the backing of someone like Facebook. And who better than Facebook, which has a very youthful leader to it, he's younger than thou, to go out there and make a big, bold bet on this and really invest and really try to drive virtual reality. And he said something, you know, that kind of sealed it for us. He goes, you know, these big platforms, they're usually some percentage gaming, like 40% gaming. There are also some percentage social and communications, like 40% social communications on a mobile platform. You guys obviously have gaming figured out. We obviously have social and communication figured out. If we put this together, I really believe that we can go out and connect 1 billion people in VR. And that was something that, right when we heard that, was like, yeah, that's what we want to do. Let's connect 1 billion people in VR and change the world. And that led us to the partnership with Mark and the Facebook crew. So, thank you. I hope that you're a little bit inspired. You can go out and do this too. It just takes, you know, engineering students going out and putting their minds to work. And we're just like you guys, and we started at 19, 18, making something happen. And you can do it too. So thank you guys.
That was an inspiring talk, Brendan. Any questions? Yes, please.
I've been following you guys for a while, and as much as it's great to hear about you guys getting the backing you need for your company, me and some friends have been talking about it, and we're wondering, like, how much of the independence that Facebook has promised you long-term is actually written into the acquisition versus just sort of an interpersonal understanding?
Well, the way that Mark is going out there and Facebook is partnering with companies is twofold. There are companies that they're looking to acquire that they pull into Facebook that they use for, maybe it's some kind of computer vision detection of face recognition, and it becomes part of Facebook, and it's just something that gets consumed and you never hear about again, and it's now a feature. There are other companies that are these rare, unique companies that have a huge amount of brand value already behind them, that have a community behind them, that have a loyal user base behind them, like Instagram and WhatsApp and Oculus, that they're acquiring and they're leaving independent, and they're doing that to set a precedent to allow them to acquire more companies like us. And it's something that, they right away, Mark was up front. He said, I know this may sound scary, and you may think we're going to, leave you Oculus for a little while, and then one day it's going to be Facebook VR, and it's all going to change. And, but that's really not the intention here. And you can talk to the founder of Instagram, and you can talk to the founder of WhatsApp, and that's the commitment we made to them. And if we went and called it Facebook VR, we'd probably destroy a lot of the value that you've created. So why would we go do that? And same with Instagram, and same with WhatsApp. And so it's their commitment. At the end of the day, there's not a whole lot that's actually, legally detailed out. It's just more of a commitment. If they change this tone, they're going to have a very hard time in the future acquiring unique, rare companies like us, which really didn't need to be acquired. And frankly, we didn't want to be acquired. We wanted to be independent. But when we saw this partnership and how much sense it made, we really wanted to then, go into this partnership if it meant we could stay Oculus and stay who we are. We keep our Oculus hoodies, we keep our Oculus email addresses, and we really do keep our independence, hopefully forever. But that's the commitment that they've made. Yes, fingers crossed. I agree.
Yes, please.
So I wanted to ask, what was your experience when you were starting this space with dealing with patents? How you deal with that a lot of other companies may have?
Sure. So some of the good news on the VR space is it's so old, and so many people have tried and patented things 30 years ago that there's a sea of patents that have all expired now. There's also been a kind of drought of people investing and investigating the R&D of VR because people gave up on it. And so there hasn't been a huge focus in protecting or patenting different VR things until just now when Oculus starts to work. And we decided to take a fairly anti-patent strategy. And that was something that we were upfront with our initial investors, and we were upfront with, each other. We had to all agree to that. And then with our investors, with our partners, and then rolling into Mark and Facebook, we had to really push on them and say, look, we're not going to file software patents on a lot of what we do, or almost anything that we do. And that was an agreement that we had from the beginning with John Carmack and Ottman and Michael Abrash and Valve, and we all got together and said, let's not do software patents, and let's really try to think differently. Of course, a few hardware patents here and there, just to give us some defense against some of the bigger guys. But we are taking a fairly anti-patent strategy, and all our partners so far have been supportive of that.
Thank you.
Talked a lot about both the social and the gaming parts of the virtual reality. In your opinion, what's one of the more kind of exciting features of virtual reality that you're hoping will emerge?
So virtual reality is brand new to most of us. Palmer had thought about it for a few years. John Carmack had imagined it for a while and kept trying, but it wasn't the right time. Most of us hadn't even thought of it. We had just heard it never worked. And then we just got into VR 21 months ago. And that was the beginning of our endeavor into virtual reality. And right away, we first thought, okay, we're going to put it on, we're going to be in Call of Duty or Doom, and we're going to run down hallways, and we're going to blow the crap out of people, and this is going to be super awesome. And this is going to be like the most engaging, immersive, probably somewhat violent experience of our lives. And we are going to be like, Maximus in Gladiator. And it was going to be awesome. And then we get in there and we push forwards on the gamepad and we start running down the hall and we're like, oh. And we all grab our stomachs and we're like, okay, that doesn't feel so good. And so we're learning what actually works well in VR. And that was a rude awakening that running down the hallways, rocket jumping in virtual reality while you're actually sitting in a chair is not so comfortable to most people. Carmack said at one point, well, hardcore gamers will sit with buckets in their lap. And it's like, okay, they probably will, but that's not the go-to-market marketing message that we want. We don't sell this with bags or buckets. We want it to be comfortable. So we are trying to learn what actually would work in virtual reality. And one of the things that we quickly found out is stationary experiences. You sitting down when you're in real life sitting down in virtual reality is pretty comfortable, maybe the most comfortable experience. And any kind of locomotion starts to be kind of challenging. And not for everybody, but for a big percentage of people. I can't do locomotion. I have to go real slowly. I'm the most sensitive of anybody. But I love games, and I love graphics, and I love virtual reality. And so we started learning what actually is a comfortable experience in VR. And as it turns out, this stationary experience, this sense of presence, really feeling like you're in an area, is going to be awesome when you can share it with other people and you can see other people and have face-to-face social experiences. Maybe it's playing a video game, but it is going to be largely about a shared social experience. Not Facebook social. Not Facebook social. Face-to-face communication.
Please step up to the microphone.
Can I?
Yeah, certainly, please.
I'm one of the two people who tested your development kit, but it's for medical applications. And there are a lot of neurologic diseases that will benefit from such an application. For example, concussion monitoring. And I'm wondering whether Facebook will allow you guys to collaborate with us on medical applications.
Well, if they leave us purely independent, it's up to us. I probably have to go back and consult their legal team at some point. I think we are going to be able to work with the medical field in a big way. That's something that we're very excited about. It's something that Mark and the Facebook team are also very excited about. I mean, they are looking at this as far beyond just games and just running down halls and shooting people. They are really looking at this as something where you can go out and you can cure a lot of potential problems, and you can address a lot of medical, you can address architecture and spatial experiences you never had, give people the ability to go on virtual vacations that they just never could travel to, maybe Tuscany or some faraway place that now they're going to get a sense of actually being there. So they're very supportive of us going and doing non-gaming applications. At the same time, Oculus is mostly run by game developers. We do love games, and we do love blowing stuff up. So there'll be a lot of that. It'll be a good mix.
You talked about how VR is in the new platform after PCs and mobile, now VR. And most of us know that Google has trying to still their second stage of getting Google Glass off the ground. And I'm sure some thought has gone into that. Do you think Oculus VR poses a threat to them, that it's so much more than Google Glass has already been made out to even be in the beginning?
Well, we think Google Glass is really neat, and it's more of a notification system than it is an actual augmented reality or virtual reality. I think they, from the beginning, tried to specifically design it not to block your vision in a big way and kind of block out the real world. They wanted it to be almost invisible, and you could wear it all the time, and you could walk around. Maybe forgot what you look like when you're wearing it and how many people stare at you. Small problem. It's I kind of look at it like a Segway. I hope it doesn't have too much of the nerd factor. And I'm not pinging on anybody that has Google Glass. I saw somebody back there have it. Awesome. Looks good on you. So it does have a stigma to it, and they are going to have challenges around it. But I think they have a very different goal in mind for Google Glass. It's to complement the phone. Whereas we're really trying to completely replace the vision. We don't want you standing up or walking around. We want you sitting down, and we want you in this new impossible world that you couldn't be in before. So different platform.
I noticed that there are people lining up, and there is a bit of an asymmetry. But we will just handle as many questions as we can. Would you please go next?
Yeah. My question is on startups I know that they can be capital intensive, so I was wondering how do you handle that coming out of college and how much cash usually gets drained?
What do you think, Mike? Find a good business partner. It helps. Yeah. Raising money is very important. I mean, at some point, probably need to write something up about when we did our Kickstarter, we immediately started raising money after we already had put a lot of money, loading money into the company. We immediately went and started raising money the first day we saw it be successful. So if you have a successful Kickstarter, you better start raising money right away because you need to fulfill that Kickstarter. And most people think, oh, look, we got all this money coming in on Kickstarter. We're going to be in great shape. When in actuality, you probably didn't budget it right. Your product is probably going to cost you a lot more, take a lot longer time to do, and you better go out and raise money to really support it, or you might find yourself getting halfway there and failing because you run out of money. That was something that we kind of knew going into it. Thankfully, after doing that ourselves, we failed. We ran out of money. We went into my mom's house and begged for forgiveness and food. So it is something that you can learn through trying it and failing, or you can go out and start raising money right away for any business idea you have. It's important. Capital really is important.
Now, John Carmack has said that in order for the Oculus to be truly immersive, we need 4K resolutions. But 4K TVs are just now starting to get into the consumer markets, and they're still really pricey. How long do you think it'll be viable to have a 4K Oculus?
Well, we're still working on getting to that 1K Oculus. Long term, the cost of materials around a headset, you just look at the weight and the size of it. It's a lot smaller than a big TV. It weighs a lot less. You're going to be able to ship a lot more on a boat than you can a big TV. So the just raw materials of a headset is going to be a lot more similar to a cell phone than it is a TV, which is good news for everybody because TVs are a big cost is in raw materials and is shipping. So over time, it'll get cheaper and it'll get higher res. I think everybody has their different opinion on what the actual resolution is needed to be truly immersive and to really deliver this holy grail. You, Zach, have tried the consumer prototype that we have. What did you think in terms of quality? So we think it's going to be incredible, and we think that's 1K to start is going to be a good place. But it'll definitely go up. I mean, it's not true vision until it's like 12 or 16K. So why stop at 4 when you can go to 12 or 16 and get true vision? And we want it to where you pull off and on the glasses and you can't tell the difference. But not anytime soon. Don't quote me on that. I didn't just announce that.
Yes, please.
Will you have Oculus Rift development kits for rental during the BitCamp?
We will have Oculus Rift dev kits here. We have, I think, 24 or so that we supplied, and they are given out to different teams, so they should be around, and hopefully you get to try it.
All right.
Yes, Zach knows more.
All right, follow up. Quick follow-up, is it feasible to develop something in 34 hours or 36 hours with no knowledge of the dev kit at all?
Say it again?
Is it feasible to develop something in 36 hours with this development kit?
With no knowledge at all?
Well, with no prior knowledge specifically regarding this work. Probably. So.
You look brilliant. No pressure. It definitely helps to have some experience with it and some background. It's like anything. If I gave you a cell phone and said, go, 36 hours, I mean, you're just starting to learn what touch is and what the touch API is before the buzzer goes off. It really is important to understand what the movement is and how VR rendering works and what works in VR and what doesn't. So I think you need experience to do something in 36 hours, to be honest.
All right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Would you like to ask your question?
Yeah.
Sure. It's regarding the acquisition of Gaikai by Sony. Did you have any second thoughts giving, such an innovative product to a large powerhouse of a company?
Well, I probably wouldn't be here working on Oculus if that didn't happen. So I am really glad Sony acquired it. And, I think it was a great deal for everybody. Sony got a kind of streaming cloud system that they wanted for backwards compatibility to things. I'm trying to think what they've announced. So they got what they needed, and we largely got what we were looking for to return to our investors and to be able to go off and work on something else. And I think ultimately, I wasn't one of the founders. I wasn't one of the founders of Gaikai, so you always want to stay true to the vision of what the founders were, set out to do. And they set out to produce a cloud streaming service that would be used by hopefully millions of people. And now it will be as part of Sony. So I think they really got to fulfill their vision. Just like with Oculus, when we put it together, we really wanted to connect millions of people, hundreds of millions, maybe 1 billion people in VR. And with our Facebook partnership, I think the odds of us doing that are much higher than without.
Thank you.
So maybe, Stacy, should we stop sometime soon? Why don't we go with these 4 questions? So will you please...
Certainly. Early on in your talk, you discussed how you had to go through a very lengthy dry spell when you had no successes. For those who want to begin with startups, do you have any guidance on how long you should keep forging ahead without success before you redirect your energies elsewhere?
Well, the advice we gave Palmer, who was 19, with his startup was partner with us. We've done it before, and we'll help you not screw up. Mm-hmm. If you can find a mentor and an advisor who has been through it before, they can usually help you avoid a bunch of mistakes and help you navigate some of these difficult paths. We didn't find necessarily enough advisors in the beginning, or at least we didn't listen to them, and which is probably more likely. We didn't listen to them. And it definitely took a lot longer, and it was a lot harder. I wouldn't change it for anything, but it was very, very difficult. So, prepare to fail and learn from it, and it's okay to fail. It's awesome.
All right. Thank you.
Yes, please.
Hey, thanks for talking. So, quick question. I know you said that you have a couple of these dev kits floating around for the BitCamp, for people to work on, for the next 36 hours or so. But are you going to Are any student groups going to be able to keep those, for instance, like Terrapin Hackers, that we can continue to develop and work with this kind of stuff?
Sure, we'll give away the 24.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes,
good question.
What are your thoughts on the potential overlap between Oculus Rift technology and film?
So that has been a big topic, and it's definitely something that we're investigating in a big way. And we're working with a number of the top film producers on. We've had some of the big directors come visit and try the latest prototypes and talk about how they envision this all working. We've been trying to figure it out. We have different opinions internally. Everybody, has their own opinion. Carmack has a different opinion from me and from other people. I mean, largely we overlap, but we definitely have our kind of vision of this. Since I'm so sensitive, the challenge is that film really is not made for VR. Film is made for a 2D billboard. You take a film, and if you have a camera, it's taking a capture of this 3D world, and it's flattening it onto a frame. And now, if you're going into VR, you're putting that frame up somewhere. And if you're stretching it and making it huge, and you have a 360 camera that's capturing this whole world, but flat, when you put on the VR headset and you look around, the whole world suddenly became flat, and you lose your parallax, and you lose your 3D effect. To me, that's a lot less engaging than when I actually get true VR that's comfortable, that has real 3D depth to it. And so what I look at as the most exciting part of VR film and VR cinema is real-time cinema, where you actually get this kind of high frame rate, 90, 100, 120 frames per second, rendered in real time, full 100% CG, not film, not flat, cinema, linear cinema, where you can lean in. Let's say you had Toy Story, and you had the Toy Story characters, and they're walking around, and now you can lean in, and you can look around them, and if you lean too much, maybe they turn and look at you and stare right in your eyes and say, hey, lean back. And suddenly they feel a lot more real than they would have on a flat 2D screen. And that's something that I think you can't get anywhere else. You can't get that in IMAX. You can't get that on your TV. And that's really going to change film in a very big way when you get this true 3D real-time cinema with a tiny bit of interactivity and some eye contact and kind of social communication element to it. It'll be a lot of fun.
Thank you.
Yes, please.
You talked a little bit about Facebook acquiring Ocular and how that's going to lead to development of apps, possibly. My question is, how do you see this affecting developers in the future? Are we going to see the emergence of an Ocular operating system? Are we going to see a new API come out for developing apps or something more related to social media? And how can we as computer scientists and programmers and engineers prepare for that?
Good questions. Can't announce anything yet. But you can expect it's going to get a lot better, and we're going to have to make a lot more tech to make this really work. I mean, one of the really cool things of VR is it's incredibly challenging, right? If you don't really get it right, you make people sick, and that just is reality. In fact, if you're in it and you're even getting it right, and suddenly the OS hiccups and has, maybe your antivirus software starts running, or you get an email behind the scenes and Exchange does something horrible, and suddenly the whole world glitches and hiccups. John Carmack said it best. He said when it hiccups and when you're in VR and it drops a frame, it's like somebody punched you in the temple. Not so nice, right? So creating some kind of a platform that delivers a real-time experience that never drops a frame is long-term is going to be important. So that's the roundabout way of answering your question. It's going to get easier to work with VR. We want to make it as easy as possible. We want Unity and Unreal and these 3D tools, different OSs to just naturally work out of the box. We want you to be able to plug into Windows and it doesn't blink your monitors and do horrible things. It's just recognized as a VR device and it just works. All of those things will improve. I wouldn't say because of Facebook. They're going to improve because that's what we're set out to do. But Facebook definitely helps us afford more people to improve those things.
Thank you.
Mike, will you just step here for a minute? Let me just say that this has been most inspiring. We are incredibly proud of both of you. You're going to transform the world, and it's not very often that that happens. And furthermore, you are from our university, and that makes it even more special. So let's all give them a hearty round of applause. And I will end with one last question, and then we can wind up, and there will be demonstrations and all that. Yeah, as we set up I will just ask one question to both of them. It turns out that we have some wonderfully talented students in our electrical and computer engineering department and in the computer science department. And these students work very closely with each other, and they take a lot of common courses and all that. So would you both make some recommendations to our students of what courses they might be focusing on or what they ought to be doing in today's world? Because Stacy tells me you have a very good answer to that question. So who will go first?
Go for it, Mike. You stayed in school.
You can use the mic.
Hello. So it's actually a very exciting time to be in computer science. And an example of what makes Rift possible, it's really a lot of the mobile technology and sensors which came together. And when I was in school, I really didn't know what to expect and what, if other things I learned besides the most obvious things which I cared about would be useful. So I cared about games, and that's why we worked with Brendan on Scaleform. And it's very important to really be exceptional at one particular thing. But I had no idea that later in the future we'll be creating virtual reality and computer vision will come into play. That to track objects in hands and all of that, it really requires a lot of science and knowledge. So taking my computer vision class in Maryland did help me with that. And also the most basic skills such as technical writing or really even databases, those type of things come in important in business. Even if it's not what you're making, if you're building a company, you'll need to bring people with all those experience. You'll need to really collaborate with them. So that entire world of all things coming together is what you get in school. So you really should be exceptional at something. You need to strive to achieve in whatever it is you believe in. But having the general knowledge and understanding of as much as you can in the world definitely helps. And doing it and learning it on campus is really fun. So.
I think the discipline that college gives you is really important. So if you can do well in school, it means you're taking a lot of time and you're pretty focused on your subjects and you're getting good grades. If you can do well in school and do extra projects outside of school that you also do well in, it means you're probably not spending a lot of time in the bars and you're spending a lot of time focused on things that really matter. Bars matter. I mean, it's fun sometimes. But it's really great to dive in, like Mike said, to one area, become exceptional at it, but also get this well-rounded base. And you get that in college, especially if you take it seriously and you really focus. And that's something that we encourage everybody to do. Personally, I took a little time off that has now turned into a lot of time off. But I can tell you, it was very hard, and I had to take Sonic Fusion and then Scaleform incredibly seriously for many, many years, much longer than I would have even college had I stayed in school. So it's important to do well and take it seriously.
Well, thank you both very, very much. We are very proud of you. So, Brendan?
So this is, this is called Couch Night. This is a new demo. Art, you're going to use the good one. You're going to give our poor soul the old one. Oh, too bad. So in this game, you have two players, and they can actually look at each other. And we're seeing right now, are we seeing Art's face? They're looking. Okay. So you can kind of, Art, can you lean into him a little bit? You can lean in and see that little guy. Sorry, you can't lean. You're using an old one. Don't hit your face on the camera. Yeah. So you get to see this experience where you actually get to see the other avatar. This is that first glimpse of a little bit of social communication. Of course, no lap dances here, please. So this is an experience where you're controlling. Whoops, and now we are. Aha! That's why we need our own OS. So yeah, that still in prototype form. What was happening, basically you had two characters that were looking at each other, and you were then controlling these little knights on a table, and you could fight, the guys could fight, and you actually felt like they were really right there in front of you. And at the same time, now it'll take a while to start back up. At the same time, you saw your creepy other avatar friend, which definitely didn't look nearly real enough yet to be awesome. Oh, there, now we're back. Awesome. So you have these little knights. They run around. They look like little dolls that feel semi-real. And then you can see your friend. Aha, now they're fighting each other. Of course, it's always about fighting. And what you're seeing here is two eyes. So this is what's actually rendered on the screen in the headset. And he's getting one of those eyes in each eye. So left and right. And he won. Now they're back again. And there's physics to it. And this is based on the Unreal Engine. And it's all built in Unreal 4. And it works out of the box. So you actually can just pick up and start working with Unreal 4. And it works in VR. And you don't have to do any kind of special programming. But you do need to get the scale and things like that right. And this is actually not fully correct. So if you look down, your hands are kind of like huge. And your legs are a little small. And suddenly your feet look a little off. And it's not quite to the right scale. But it's still very, very cool. And so this is the future. Look at these guys. Isn't that awesome? You don't have to go to school anymore. You'll just sit in your dorm room with one of these things on. And you'll be in a virtual classroom. It's going to be amazing. And of course, you'll only use it for very PG things. And it's going to be always. Just like the internet. Had to end up in the lap, huh? if you can see, there's a camera here, and the camera is tracking the headset, and it's actually allowing him to lean in and lean around, whereas the other fellow, poor soul, gets orientation only, and he better not lean or he's going to feel ill pretty quickly. Cool. Okay. And now we stare at the labs. Thank you.